Welcome to the Green Grind Podcast, where excuses get mulched and fluff gets left at the door. I'm Leroy Maines from Brilliant Borders Landscaping, here with Corey Ballard, the founder of Perfect Cut Site Management and Ballard Innovative Products. We're not here to sugarcoat the industry. If you want fluff, go listen to somebody else. If you want the raw, unfiltered truth about what it really takes to grow, grind, and win in the business, buckle up because it's time to get to work. The Green Grind is sponsored by Jobber, and let's not forget our awesome producers, Kaz and Junior, who get this thing from our mouth to your ears every week. And welcome back, guys. Today we're talking with Arik Levy. Arik is a guy who wrote into us, a serial entrepreneur, I guess I would describe him as. Several different businesses, products that he's done. So we're going to chat with him a little bit today about business background and what makes business go. Arik, welcome to the Green Grind, man. We're glad to have you on our show today.
Hey, thank you guys for letting me be on the show. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Could you tell our listeners a little bit about you, your background, and kind of where you're at today, so they know kind of who you are and us as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't come from the landscaping irrigation industry, but I'm in it now and love being part of it. But as far as my history goes, started in corporate career, General Electric, and went through their training programs. And back in 2000, moved out to San Francisco as part of the dot-com craze. My college degree was in computer systems, and I've always had a tech angle to things, so it was really exciting to be there during 2000 and the dot-com craze. Unfortunately, it didn't last very long, and I lost my job and ended up taking another position at a company. We made consumer products, and it was about an hour and a half outside of San Francisco, and so I was driving back and forth to San Francisco every day and listening to hundreds of books. It was Audible, it just came out, and man, was that like the best thing ever. They had an unlimited subscription back then, and I listened to about every business book you could imagine. And one of my favorites was sort of the Rich Dad series. And I started driving down the road and start looking at everything as an asset. And so I'm sure you guys, have heard about what an asset is. And so I started thinking, I think if I can start a business, I'm going to give it a try. And one of the challenges that I was facing was literally get my dry cleaning done. I mean, this was an hour and a half commute. I'd leave my house at 6 in the morning. I'd get home at 7 o'clock at night. And there was a dry cleaner in my apartment building, but I couldn't, they weren't open when I was available. And so I started leaving my laundry outside the door for them. They would pick it up for me and clean it. And I was just like, wow, this is working really great, but we need security. What if I had a locker here? And so that was sort of the delve into entrepreneurship for me, and kind of what started my career as an entrepreneur was this concept of, what if I put lockers in apartment buildings for dry cleaning? People could drop their dry cleaning off in the locker, pick it up, dry cleaner, the laundromat would service it and put it back in there. And so my first business was a company called Laundry Locker. Grew to become the largest dry cleaner in San Francisco in about 3 years. One of the top 5% or 1% dry cleaners in the country. I actually joined the board and was the president of the California Dry Cleaners Association. Jumped all into dry cleaning. And when I listen to your show and you guys talking about irrigation, it's a very similar industry, and there's so many parallels to the challenges that we face there. But to make a long story short, Laundry Locker took off. We actually started we became a franchise. We were going to franchise that throughout the entire nation, but we actually realized that the software that was built for Laundry Locker, we could just license that out to people all over the country. So we became a software company. So moved from becoming a dry cleaner, we had a 20,000 square foot facility, we were doing everything, to now becoming a software company. Started license that software all over the world. The largest dry cleaners in the world were running it. Everybody kind of got on board of wanting to do this locker-based dry cleaning service, just because it was such a convenient and great way to get your dry cleaning done. And through that, we had all of these, in essence, you could call them entrepreneurs that were out there doing dry cleaning services. They were knocking on the doors of apartment buildings saying, can we install lockers? And the apartment buildings were saying, yeah, we love these lockers. They're working great for dry cleaning, but can you help us solve our package problem? We used to get 5 or 10 packages a day. Can't you guys offload that into these lockers and have UPS and FedEx deliver their packages to the lockers? And so that's how Luxor One was born. We said, yeah, this is what the customers want. This would be great for these apartment buildings. And we already have a nationwide network of salespeople that are out there knocking on the doors of the apartment buildings. And so Luxor One was the company that was built out of that. That company just really took off like a rocket ship. I mean, we did 2 million our first year, and it was like 8, 16, 30, within 4 years, we were doing over $30 million a year. in business of selling these lockers into apartment buildings and really solving the challenges that they were having with packages. Landed up selling that company in 2018, and we can kind of go through the sales story. I'd love to share that with you. And was pseudo retired, kind of trying to figure out what my purpose in life was, what I wanted to do next. And we landed up building a house. And when we were building that house, these guys are cutting holes in the ground left and right and digging everything up. And I'm like, are you guys taking pictures of this? Are you mapping this? How am I going to know where all these lines are underground and where all my sprinklers and my valves are? And that's how my new endeavor, YardPro, and how I got into the irrigation industry started. And so it's been a fun journey and an industry that I hope to have as much impact in as I had in the dry cleaning industry.
Interesting. That's quite a journey, and but it made a ton of sense when you were explaining it, Arik. I was like, well, that makes sense, like dry cleaning lockers. Then I'm like, the package, and the interesting thing with the package business is I've seen a couple pitches on this and some other things I've come across where even for residential homes where like right now at my house, there's probably 3 Amazon packages sitting on the front porch. And I always think like, shit, there's gotta be a better way. And they sell lock boxes now and you can do different things. And now Amazon even can get in your garage, have you seen that?
Yeah.
It's pretty sweet. But, so one of the things I guess the questions I have, and maybe our listeners don't care, but we've had a few people on who've had some pretty successful exits. I sold my company in 2021 to a national company. And one of the questions that always comes up, I can't remember the guest we had recently that sold his company. He said he was sitting on a beach, he had a few beers, and he was like, shit, like, is this it? When you sold your company, because I think every business, I'm kind of going in circles, or every entrepreneur, Leroy included, we all think that someday we're going to sell our business and we're going to get this amount of money, whatever that number is, and we're just going to retire. And that didn't happen for me. I had plenty of money. I didn't wake up one day and be like, shit, now what do I do? What was that experience like? Because I think for our listeners, everyone thinks that the day comes when you sell your company that you just ride off in the sunset and it's set, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, there's a process that happens, and it oftentimes depends on your exit and
Sure.
the structure of that, right? When we sold our company, we were not trying to sell the company. We had actually won the deal with Home Depot to deploy lockers into all the Home Depots. And we had Lowe's on board, we had Best Buy, we had the UPS store, we had Target. I mean, every major retailer was poised to start rolling these lockers out. And so we went out to try to raise some money because it kind of changed the business model for us. And we weren't going to have money up front. Home Depot pays, net 90 terms. We had to produce millions of dollars of lockers. In essence, we were betting the company on this transaction. And we went out to try to raise some money. And through that process, we found that there was 5 or 6 companies that wanted to buy us. We ran this incredible process and kind of within 6 months going from, how am I going to afford to build the inventory for this Home Depot deployment and how's it going? And are we, to, oh, wow, we've sold the company. It's a whole different ball game. But, your question around sort of what that was like, it was the most amazing feeling ever. And it wasn't necessarily the money that came through. It was sort of the weight that's taken off your back. When 15 years of sitting there slogging it out, trying to grind, making money, we were never a highly profitable company. We were, you teeter back and forth. And so, you've got hundreds of employees, you've got all this inventory, you've got every penny and every morsel of your being, in essence, invested in this company. And there's just so much weight on your shoulders. So to me, the biggest feeling right after sale was like, oh, wow, has this weight been taken off? And I really enjoyed working at that company and being able to almost build my dream without as much strain and pressure on top of me from a financial perspective. So I actually, in fact, it's what are we, almost 7, 8 years post acquisition. I'm still involved in that company from an advisory perspective. I still love that industry. In fact, I started a venture fund called Locker One Ventures so that we could invest in other companies that are doing stuff and trying to solve solutions for lockers. But I found that, my true purpose and what I love doing is solving problems and building things. And when I see, it's this entrepreneurial mindset where it goes back to when I was driving up to Santa Rosa in my car every day and seeing cranes or seeing billboards and seeing their business opportunities. I walk down the street and I see 15 different business opportunities. And when they were building the house and doing all this irrigation, I went out there looking for tools that would help me map out my yard and couldn't find one. And I said, this is an exciting business opportunity. Let me delve into that a little bit more and see if there's a problem I can solve. And so that's what I've realized that my purpose in life and what I love doing is solving problems. And whether it's solving problems within a business, starting a new business and solving a problem there, that's what gets me out of bed in the morning. It's not going out and playing around the golf.
For sure. It's interesting you say that because Leroy, you and I have talked about that a lot. Like I literally every single day think I could start a new business. I mean, every time I drive down the road, I think I could do that a little bit better. Lately, every road I go down is under construction. I don't know how every road, and I've been traveling. My son races, so we're on the road a lot traveling, and I'm always looking at road signs and could this be done different? There's people holding those signs that stop and go, and I'm like, that should be automated. And I'm thinking, so I wonder. I think that entrepreneurs in general, it's a weird way to live because everything I look at, I always think, first off, I'm always like, that company doesn't make any money. That company doesn't make any money. That company doesn't make any money. I'm always thinking there's no fucking way it makes any money. And then I also see other companies where I'm like, I could do that better. Are you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, is it the Geico commercial or what are the commercials where the dad's like, you got to sell a lot of hot dogs to make the rent on that flat. I think the exact same thing. I'm like, you can't sell enough sandwiches in this place to make that business work. But yeah,
coffee shops get me too. Like I go in and I'm like, man, how many cups of coffee? Now I get the national brands, but there's a couple local brands here, and I think to myself, you're only open 5 to noon.
Yeah.
You sold 100 cups at $5 a piece. You made $500 today. I'm like the overhead. I'm like, that's like a business you open for your wife to keep her out of the house.
Yeah.
So we're getting sidetracked.
So I've thought of those things too. But Arik, you mentioned solving, and I wrote it down here because you were talking about this with the locker, solving the challenges. And it makes so much sense why these businesses are successful, because when you're solving somebody's problems, they're always going to be successful, it seems like. And Corey, you've kind of done the same thing with your products. You solve problems.
You're trying to solve problems
for guys like me that have these issues with our companies, and we buy the products because it works. It solves the issues that we have. So,
well, I was back to the question I had, Arik, was it's such an interesting thing when people sell their businesses, and I just always want to ask people that have sold small businesses, large businesses, what that was like for them. I also stayed on for 2 years. My business partner actually is still on with the national company that bought us. We weren't for sale either. The deal made sense when they came to us, and we had 3 locations with a couple hundred employees. And I always think that people that maybe aren't entrepreneurs, or some of our listeners or some of our friends and family, and maybe you had the same situation. I had people say like, man, if I would have sold my company, I would have done this and I would have done that. And it's like, my experience was different than yours. I didn't feel extremely like there was all this pressure off me because I wasn't running the day to day at that point. But I thought the financial situation was going to make me feel different. I thought that when the money hit my account, I was going to feel a certain way. And it just didn't do that. It didn't fulfill this hole in me that I thought it was going to fill. And then all of a sudden I thought, well, fuck, I got to go to work tomorrow. But I didn't know where to go, really. It's like, it didn't feel as good as I thought it would. And so that's why I asked the question. And I've talked to a lot of people that have sold companies successfully. And it almost sparks a new journey that immediately they want to go do something new and fulfill, again, solutions or help people or, give back to communities or whatever. I feel like there's that need to do more immediately. We talk about Mark Bradley who sold LMN and got a substantial amount of money. And I always say, like, why does Mark still out grinding? It's like, why? Like, he loves it, right?
He wants to do something different, wants to help people. I mean, that's what it's about. But Arik, let me ask you this. You have developed a couple of companies in your entrepreneurial journey here. What have you noticed in the biggest differences between developing a product like such as the lockers versus a software company? We've had other software guys on here before, and it's extremely challenging. Sounds like it can be extremely expensive from what I understand as well. Can you talk to us about some of the differences in those?
Yeah, I mean, definitely a software company versus a hardware or service company, it's a whole different ballgame. So, I mean, you can look at Wall Street and you hear about you hear about the Google and the Facebook, and the economics of software, especially when you've got recurring revenue, are really, really amazing. And just like you walk down the street and you're like, how's that company making money? I look at all these software companies. I'm like, how are these guys employing so many thousands of employees?
Right.
I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a software developer. I know how to build software myself. I wouldn't call myself necessarily a software developer, but I'm more of a system architect, and I've got the ability to write code. And so I think that changes a lot of it. One highly productive developer can do the work of 10 unproductive developers. And so I think a lot of my friends were kind of, "Oh, I want to build software. How do you do it? What's the key to this?" And they'll go hire a team, and it's really, really easy to be taken advantage of in that industry. And it can become very, very expensive to build software, or you can do it for pennies. I mean, this software, like, in fact, when I started this new company, which is a software company, and even my first company, Laundry Locker, I came up with this concept that I knew we needed software. We needed a way for people the drivers with their handhelds to be able to check in the items and the bags when they went and picked them up from a locker, and people to go onto the website and place that order. And I had one guy that was a developer that worked for me, and I think I probably paid him like 10 grand, and he built the initial version of the software, and we were up and running. And then I took it over and started building it myself. And I think I'm in a unique situation where I'm an entrepreneur, but also have that software development skill set. And so it's really, really powerful because as my customer can say, "Oh, this, can you do this?" Or, "Hey, we've got a new commercial client that wants to do linen service. How are we going to handle that?" Well, that's a lot different than checking in, polo shirts and khaki shorts or khaki pants. So I can just go into the software myself. And within an hour or 2 or 5 hours, I can sit there and code this up myself. And it kind of goes back to that solving problems. I mean, software development is really just a bunch of problems you're trying to fix and solve. This doesn't work. Okay, what if I do it this way? No, that didn't work. Let me try it this way. What's the process I should have? Putting together a flow chart of what your process map is, and then your software just kind of follows that path. So, you know, I think at least getting a proof, and especially these days with no code and AI and all those tools that are out there, getting a software proof of concept out there to at least get it tested and make sure it works, that's relatively low cost. Iterating over time and building a product like LMN, I mean, that's going to require lots of developers and a good team that can do it. But you could build LMN with 20 developers, or you could build it with 2,000 developers, depending on how you do it. On the hardware side, on the services side, hardware is a lot of fun, whole different ball game. Hardware has really slow turns. So, we have a sensor right now. In fact, we have a leak detection sensor that you plug right into your drip lines, and it'll let you know if you have a leak, or if your zone's been stuck on, or if it hasn't stopped, or if it hasn't run for 7 days. So now we've kind of built this as hardware, because I'm a hardware guy. I love building lockers. I love building other hardware solutions. So this has been really fun for me, but it's very slow. It's a slow turn. In software, if there's a bug, I can fix it in 2 minutes. If there's a challenge with hardware, I've got to go back to my mechanical designer. I might need to retool it. I might wait another 3 weeks to get that product back. But once you've got it dialed in, you don't need to change as much. Whereas software, you're always improving, always evolving, always changing. So, I mean, that's, some of the differences, but very different hardware, software, and then services is, employees, right? Making sure everybody's following the processes, and that people are showing up to work at time. Services is, in my opinion, one of the hardest businesses to run, just from a personnel perspective.
For sure.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And you talked about the value of the reoccurring revenue. Why do you feel that's so powerful in businesses, and especially service businesses that we're all in?
Oh man, recurring revenue is like the best thing that's ever happened. If you don't have recurring revenue, figure out how to change your business model to recurring revenue. The challenge with recurring revenue is you're going to generally get a little less upfront, but in the long run, you're just getting that payment month after month or year after year or whatever it is. So Luxor One, we sell these lockers to apartment buildings. An average deal size is about $30,000. It's the reason, we were able to grow to a $40 million company in 4 years, was because we're selling a very expensive piece of hardware. If you look at our business today, 10 years after growing that, building that, you would buy the hardware, but there was also a recurring revenue piece for us to manage those systems, to handle all the customer service. We have video cameras on every single locker. So if there's a problem with a pickup, we're reviewing that video footage. We're always releasing new software. So there's a whole bunch of value that people are getting for that recurring revenue. Without that, we can't afford to support the hardware in the lockers. So when we sell that hardware, it's imperative that we get that recurring revenue. But if you look at our business today, our recurring revenue is greater than our hardware revenue. And the recurring revenue is it's incredibly predictable and it's incredibly easy to staff to. And then it's also what you can do is just start working on the staffing and the optimization and just continue to increase your profit margin. So you know what your revenue is going to be on a monthly basis. You kind of know what your expenses are going to be. And every uptick in revenue you have kind of becomes a nice incremental additional revenue. And you're able to work on that recurrent that expense piece and just kind of optimize that and bring that down. So, we struggle with it a lot in dry cleaning. Is there some way we can make this a recurring business model? We actually were never really able to crack the nut on that one, but we did it really well on the locker side, and software always lends itself very well to being a recurring revenue
Yeah,
model.
reoccurring revenue, and we talk about that. Our guest that we had on before, we did a podcast before this one, and he has changed his business model, and that reoccurring revenue, and in our landscape, lawn care world, snow and ice management, it's a tough one, and you'll see some businesses that are in the full maintenance for that reason. I'm setting up annual contracts, seasonal snow contracts. And I like that business model as well. I like the cash flow, I like the reoccurring cash flow. Leroy's business is a little more top heavy, I would say, on the installation side. And that always scared me too, because you're only as good as the next job you sell, right? And but if you're really good at it, then my buddy owns a roofing company doing 50 million, and they're only as good as the next job they sell, but they've been doing 50 million a year every year because they're really, really good at it. But I'm always like, fuck, what if they quit building? What if they quit building Amazons and Googles and Facebooks and all these huge distribution centers that they're doing these monster commercial roofs on? Like, what's the business model look like? And, Leroy, your business, doing new installs, I always am like, what if they dry up?
Sure, well, they won't.
But they won't. But it always
people are always buying stuff.
I know, but it still makes
proven it's a track record. We have the recurring revenue year after year after year with that.
I just don't like it.
We've also, and I get it, and some people don't, but we also have developed some of that reoccurring stuff with our maintenance division, with the irrigation stuff. Just a monthly fee to the checks, the system checks, whatever that happens to be. But we also, on the landscape side of it, when we go sell a landscape, we ask the question, who's going to maintain?
Who's going to maintain it, right?
And so we can sell them the reoccurring revenue on a monthly basis to go in there and do this and to do this and to make sure somebody's through here once a month to weed the thing for $400 a month, whatever the case is.
Sure.
So the reoccurring revenue is huge in any industry, I think, and specifically in the service industry. And what we're in is, just mowing the grass, month after month after month is great. But if you can get them on a reoccurring plan and you're doing that 12 months out of the year and you're hitting their credit card, the chances of them switching to somebody else are pretty slim, I would say, if you're doing a decent job.
The seasonal contracts are the way to go. So for our listeners, most of our listeners are lawn care, landscape guys, and I don't know what the resistance is for some reason, Arik. For some reason, the guys like, this is how we've always done it. I'm like, I don't care how you've always done it. I'm telling you, the successful companies in our business, in our industry, are doing seasonal contracts. It's not difficult. You take the total, all the services you provide, you divide it by 12 months, you come up with a number. You can do your snow and ice management in there. You can put some caps in there for years where you get, a lot of snow. You can put some underages in there. I mean, there's certainly some clauses in there where you can have some a la carte stuff and things, but having a guaranteed seasonal account and revenue sure makes it a lot easier. You can keep your staff on in the winter if you're in an area that has snow. You can, what you have cash flow wise. And when we changed that in our business, it absolutely changed everything.
Yeah, and I think too, the biggest point of it, you just mentioned cash flow. It really starts to stabilize your cash flow. And to Arik's point, these are typically your profit's not coming in until the end of the project, typically till the end of the contract. And that's what a lot of guys can't get over is they just, it's top heavy. And so they've got to have a little bit of cash up front if they were doing mulch or whatever the thing is with those. But the reoccurring side of it, I think, is critical in just about any business to stabilize that cash flow.
Well, and it's easy for us to say because,
right,
we're all running successful businesses, right? Recurring revenue is actually in the beginning when you get started, it's really hard because you don't have that cash flow. So I want to go sell that $30,000 lockage system. Today, I'm like, God, I wish I gave those away for free. It was just getting monthly revenue, but there's no way I could have done that, right? So you have to look at that spectrum of, free or zero upfront versus 100% recurring revenue, or sort of a blend, and how do you do the two? But the other side is the customers want it, right? I couldn't believe it when we built our
Yeah.
house. The HVAC guy comes in, installs our HVAC. I'm like, okay, well, do you have like a service contract? Are you to come in and check these things every 6 months and replace my filters, or do I have to do all that? And they're like, oh yeah, we'll get that to you. They never did. I'm like, these guys could easily sign me up for 100, $200 a month, whatever it is. Same thing with like my solars. They come in inside the solar, install the solar. Now I've got systems, ones that aren't working. I'm like, why aren't you guys charging me to monitor this, to come in and clean it once a year, to ensure that it's going to be always up and running and working? Like, I, as a customer, want to know. I want to fix costs. I don't want to get hit with a $2,000, $10,000, $20,000 bill because my HVAC went out. I'd rather be paying $200 a month for it and just know that it's being well maintained and it's not going to go out.
Yeah.
So, I think it's the same thing for the landscaping guys. Like, the customer just wants to know that stability. Nobody likes getting hit with a big bill because something blew up in their irrigation line. They'd rather it just is always maintained and well taken care of.
For sure. It reminds me, I've had the worst at my house. Everybody we've signed up to do monthly stuff has done a horrible job. Even like our hot tub, we had a company that's supposed to come once a month. They check the chemicals, they make sure the water levels are right. You open the thing, I'm like, they just quit coming. So my wife called them like, yeah, we lost on the schedule. Our deal, HVAC, same deal. We have geothermal. They're supposed to come once a month, check the filters, check all the stuff. Just haven't been there for like 9 months. It's like, we're paying you fucking monthly. Like, what is the like? Let me back up. We're willing to pay you monthly. Like, we just want an annual contract. I just want you to show up monthly or quarterly, whatever is required, and just make sure my shit works. Like, it's all I want. Like, this is not hard.
Well, it shouldn't be anyway. You wouldn't.
It's like, I'm trying to give you money. I'm trying to give you money. You don't want it.
Arik, let's talk a little bit about the technology piece, just a little bit more. Let's beat it some more to death here. How do you see technology changing, and the biggest innovation, what we can do in landscaping and lawn care coming up in the future, would you say? What's coming down the pipeline for us with AI, and how is technology going to change our businesses in the next several years, would you say?
Hey guys, if you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you leave us a 5-star review. You can also put comments in there that we'd love to share. Now, a word from our sponsor. Hey guys, a shout out to our sponsor, Jobber, for the Green Grind podcast. Jobber is a software that you can use in your business so you can spend less time on admin tasks and more time on focusing growing your business. From creating quotes to the moment you're paid, Jobber brings the tedious admin tasks you've been doing manually together to make running your business and managing your customers a seamless process.
Running a lawn or landscaping business is hard work, and your website should be working just as hard. But if your online presence isn't cutting it, you're missing out on valuable leads every single day. That's where Green Frog Web Design comes in. We're experts in crafting stunning, easy-to-navigate websites specifically for lawn care and landscaping businesses. Our websites don't just look great, they're built to attract customers, capture leads, and grow your business. And right now, your first month is only $1. Stop losing customers to the competition. Visit greenfrogwebdesign.com now and let us help your website become the hardest working member of your team, bringing in more leads, more customers, and more success.
Well, I think there's two pieces of it, right? There's one piece from the consumer side, and there's the other piece from the operator side. So when you're saying that, these guys aren't showing up monthly, or we want, if you have a service contract with them and they're not doing it, that's a big problem. But if that comes down to software and processes, right? I mean, they're not. I've been amazed because I've been out there talking to some of the folks in this industry, and I'm like, oh, so what software are you using? How we're still using, paper to run our business. I'm like, oh my God, like. How, yeah, we're just old school, it's like and our business is doing well, so we don't need to change. So there's one from an operational efficiency, but the other side is, consumer demands are changing, right? Now that we all have an iPhone, the $1,500 piece of a computer sitting in our pocket, right? And we're expecting that, that HVAC guy is going to come once a month and he's going to do it. And I'm going to get an automated invoice from him. And maybe I'll get a picture from him. Maybe ahead of time, I'm going to get a text message saying, hey, Arik, we're on our way right there. We're going to be servicing your HVAC today. I'm like, oh man, this is amazing. This guy is really running a solid business. It's kind of like I was listening to your show the other day and you were talking about, you know, you see the guy that's got the bench signs or the advertising, and his cars are clean and they're well logoed and they all look the same, and you you can tell that that guy's running a good business, and I can almost guarantee he's running some nice software and he's got good processes in place. And so, software is a critical piece of your business. If you're not using software to run your company, like I can guarantee you're not running your company well. You can't do this stuff on the back of a napkin. You can't do it on paper. Like you have software is such a competitive advantage, and the consumers are now expecting this. And so I'm going to stay and be loyal to the guy. We use True Green comes to our property. They've got a great business. They call me, they text me when there's going to be a transaction. The guy comes, he knows exactly what's going to be serviced. He knows what's lawns he's servicing. They're communicating well with me. They put up the little flag that they're done. I'm like, oh, this is great. I feel good about that these guys are actually doing what I was paying them to do. So I think that's really important. As far as what's coming down the pike with irrigation, I love like old school businesses. And blue collar. I mean, I love getting out there and getting my hands dirty and fixing things. And I love businesses where you're out there fixing things. Whether it be a plumbing company or an HVAC company or a solar company or an irrigation company. And I think there's so much opportunity in these industries because so many people have been doing it the same way. So, I mean, you see some of these new sprinklers come out. I forget the one that it's called, but like it kind of makes sense. Why my sprinklers make this oval circle? And why can't they go around the old play gym, or why can't they handle a 90-degree curve? Now, I think there's still a lot of development that needs to happen, but to make these commercial products, but that's the way it's going to work, right? I mean, eventually your sprinklers are going to know exactly where they need to sprinkle, how much water they need to put down in every little zone. I mean, as a homeowner, trying to figure out how much water I'm supposed to be putting on each zone, and when I'm supposed to turn my water on and off, and what's the best time of day, and do I have multiple zones that are overlapping? I mean, it's pretty hard to get your irrigation dialed in perfectly. And so I think there's so many business opportunities in the space. That's why I love dry cleaning. I mean, it's an old school industry. There hadn't been innovation in the dry cleaning industry in 50 years. And we came in with lockers and software and honestly, like made a pretty big impact and change into that industry and changed a lot of consumer behavior. And now the companies that are doing what everybody's moved to just routes, pick it up at your house. How do we get out of having these stores? And so I think irrigation, you're going to see a lot of new technology coming into the space because it's just ripe for change. These even the new controllers. I mean, I'm a big Ratio fan. I've been using these Ratios. Why? Because I'm a DIY guy, and from my phone, I can do every single thing I need to on that. I don't have to go back to this controller, and I don't need to hire an irrigation guy to come out who's got the fancy setup with Hunter, and so that he can do it. And when I'm out in the middle of my yard and there's something broken, I can just go in the app and say run zone, stop zone, fix it, turn it back on again. So I mean, for me, like that controller as a homeowner, somebody trying to fix it, it's a game changer versus some of these old systems you have to go keep walking back to it, turn it on or off, or walk back to the valve and turn it on and off. So I think you're going to see a tremendous amount of innovation. We've already seen it probably in the last 5 years in this space. There's been 10 times more new gadgets and gizmos coming out than there was in the prior 20 years. And I think you're going to see those get refined and start working really well and become the solutions that we're installing in the next 10, 15 years.
Yeah, it still fascinates me today that people do stuff on paper.
Well, so I wrote this.
I'm just like,
school down.
how do you still do stuff on paper? Could you? So think about this for a second. If you're still doing paper invoices, paper whatever, you're going to get left so far in the dust because you're going to have to figure out technology to implement into your business when AI really, really starts rolling out here in the next couple of years. And then you're going to have to figure out AI on top of it. I'm like, you'd be so far behind. I don't see how those guys would stay in business.
I actually thought I wrote down old school. It's kind of funny, Arik, that it's like people tell me that they're old school like it's a badge of honor. And all I'm thinking is that's kind of cool, but you're fucking missing out. You're like, you're to Levi's point, you're going to get left in the dust. Like, we're old school here. I'm like, well, you're stupid then. Like, so you mean you're not making any money? Is that what you're telling me? Like, no, we just do it the old fashioned way. I'm like, that makes no sense. And I feel like it's like they're like, when they do it, like, I don't know, I have to grunt, like, we're just old school. That's what, like, it is. Like, they're like, it's a badge of honor. And I'm thinking, that's not cool. First off, you can't sell your business because no one's going to buy a business that's old school, that doesn't run. It has to run with a system, SOPs. You got to have automation. What's the reoccurring revenue, right? I mean, how do I get numbers? And it is interesting that you say that, because I feel like in the lawn care landscape, business especially, maybe you mentioned like plumbing and some, but they're pretty small. But the lawn and landscape business, irrigation, has such a low barrier of entry that there's so many guys doing it. And then it's this, I just do my paperwork. I just do it all at night when my kids go to bed, and I just send out handbills. And I'm like, fuck, just get QuickBooks at least. Can we just start with the basics? Like, but irrigation now, the interesting thing, Arik, with irrigation is, in most states anyways, it's at least more regulated. Some guys have to have plumbing licenses or some level of plumbing licenses. The lawn and in the fertilizer side is usually regulated, where the guys have to be licensed a little bit more. Let's talk about what you're doing, what your software is doing, or what you're trying to do in that space. And I think we kind of caught on that you just did it out of necessity. You were building a home and you saw something where you felt like there was a gap. Can you walk us through what you're doing with your stuff and how it's going to help our industry?
Yeah, so absolutely. First, I want to go back to I can understand people being intimidated by software, right? I mean, if I haven't grown up with it and I'm not comfortable with it, it's definitely like, I don't want to work with that. My advice would be, if you got a high schooler, just tell them to go figure it out. These guys, I mean, they know how to use computers 10 times better than I do. I mean, heck, I've been in this industry in computers for 30 years. The kids that are coming out of high school and college are better with robotics and computers than I am. So if you got a high schooler and you got an irrigation company, say, hey, son, why don't you give this LMN software a try, or why don't you give QuickBooks a try, see if you can get us moved on to that. And honestly, it's almost as simple as that. But going back to what we're working on, yeah, I mean, the company's called YardPro, and it was built out of my frustration kind of over several times. We bought our first house. It's like, okay, one of the first things you need to do when you purchase a home is figure out the irrigation. Because if it's not running, if it's not working, all this beautiful landscape's going to die within weeks, right? I mean, not even. And so, how does it work? Where's the controller? I mean, heck, half the time you can't even find where the controller is. What hours is it running? Is it working? Do we have leaks, et cetera? So, a map or having some kind of tool that shows you what's going on with your yard is, in my opinion, imperative every time you're selling a home. And then the same is when you're building a home or when you live on a home, there's nonstop issues with your plants, with your lawn, with your irrigation, with your sewer, your electrical. I mean, all these systems that run your house, your solar, your HVAC, they all break, right? And you might have a ground squirrel that comes and chews out a wire or something like that, and you can't fix it. So for me, when we were building our home and they were cutting all these lines, and lines are going over other lines, and there's septic lines, and there's electrical lines, and there's irrigation lines and water lines, and it's all the ground's cut up, and I'm sitting there taking as many pictures as I can and flying drones and running out there and trying to map it. And I'm like, are you guys gonna, map this? And most of the guys that were out there on the property, and I say guys because it was, for the most part, guys swinging axes and shovels, digging everything up. I'm like, is there any, are you going to map this out for me? In fact, a lot of them said, yeah, we're going to do it. But at the end of the day, they didn't do it. My pool guys like, absolutely. Yeah, we take all these drone photos and we're going to give you a map. No, they don't. Nope. Like that's their selling pitch, but they don't do it. So I went out and tried. I figured, okay, well, I'll just go on Google Maps and start drawing these lines. This should be pretty easy. Can't do it in Google Maps. Went out, I found one app that could sort of do it, but it was for hunting and completely unrelated to irrigation. I couldn't even draw straight lines because most irrigation lines and electrical lines are straight, whereas hunting, you're kind of walking through the woods and stuff like that. And my icons that I needed icons for my different valves and my sprinkler heads, and I wanted to be able to add all these different so I could say exactly what model it was if it was out there. And so I I was like, God, there needs to be there has to be a solution for this. This is one of those things. It's kind of like laundry locker. Like, how's nobody doing this, right? How is there not software that lets me go out and map my property? And so I kind of went out and built this software for myself. And so I was like, okay, this will be fun. Let me mess around with this and see what I can build. I haven't coded software in 20 years, so I kind of need to get to get the rust off a little bit and go out and try some of the new tools that are out there and some of the new platforms there are for software development. And it's come such a long way. It's become so much easier to code, especially if you know the principles of software development. And so I went out and built this YardPro app myself and started using it and said, this is like the best thing since sliced bread, man. I love this. Like, I mean, I'm literally using that app every day. We've started adding task management, so I can ping my landscaper and I can take a picture of a zone that's busted. I can GPS pin it and I can assign it to them. They'll get an email and notification. So next time they come out, they know exactly what to fix. So we built task management into it. The next thing was everybody's like, well, this is cool, but can it tell me when there's a problem? I'm like, not really. It's just software that's going to let where it is when there's a problem. It's going to make it so much easier. We've got integration into Ratio. We like to integrate it to others, but some of them don't have the APIs. But from the app, you can see exactly what zone everything is. So I can, when I plant the tree now, I plant the tree. I say this is a Meyer lemon tree. I take a picture of it. And I know exactly what it is, when I planted it, where it's planted, and I know what zone it's running on. So if it's not getting good water or something, or it's not looking healthy, I go right over to it. I hit the play button, it turns the water on. I go, oh, look at that, my emitter's clogged. I need to replace the emitter or something on here. But the next evolution and where we're about to launch is a whole suite of sensors that can help you know when there's a problem. So we went away on vacation for 2 weeks, came back, and one of my whole zones was dead. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? Well, sure enough, there was a leak on the line. It was split, and none of the emitters were getting the water that they needed. And so I was looking for all these. There's a bunch of flow sensors that are out there where you have to cut your lines, put them in, and they can do some flow sensing. I'm like, there's got to be a simpler, better way to do this. So we've developed a new piece of hardware. It's battery operated. It's actually solar powered, so it'll last for 10, 15 years. It's got up to a 1 mile range of connectivity. So you just place a little hub inside your house. It can communicate with these sensors, as many of them as you have, all throughout your property. If you had a golf course, they can be all over the golf course, or a municipality, a park, anything like that. And the first sensor we're releasing is a leak detection sensor. It's just for drip lines, but all it is an emitter, like any other emitter. You just plug it right into the drip line, and now it's going to sense it and read every time that drip line comes on. It's going to read what the pressure is on it. It's going to, if there's a pressure drop, I mean, I can have one emitter missing, and I know that I've got an issue. And I'll go out. I'll be like, oh, I'm getting an alert that this zone is low. I go outside, and sure enough, one emitter's firing water out of it. They'll tell me of our first 3 installations, 2 of them had zones that weren't even running. And so we go, I obviously install in my friend's house, call my buddy Todd. I go, Todd, 3 of your zones I'm getting readings on. One of them I'm not getting a reading on. Can you go out and just turn that zone on for me? Turns the zone on, and sure enough, we're seeing readings and pressure readings. And so he goes back, he goes, yeah, my wire was snapped. That zone wasn't getting water, and I probably would have lost all my trees. And then the other one, it'll also let you know if a zone's stuck on, right? So if it's running for hours. And then we were able to add AI intelligence. So if you have multiple zones or multiple controllers that are running different zones, we can look and see overlap. So you can know, like, hey, because you guys know, if you're in this industry, that if I've got, one main line coming in, 2 controllers, 2 zones can run at the same time, or they might overlap. And so I'll get a lot of coverage at when they're not overlapping, and I'll see a drop in water pressure when they are running. So, really excited about these new products that we're releasing. And I think, especially from a homeowner perspective, from a real estate perspective, if I'm looking to take over a property, if I've got multifamily properties or municipalities or anything like that, people, and especially we're out here in California, I mean, water is gold. And if you walk by, I mean, I'll walk down the street and people walk down the street and you just see a stream of water coming down. It's because somebody's got a leak on their line, and they won't know for a week, until somebody lets them know, or they happen to be home when that zone's running and see it leaking or something like that. Or like, why aren't my trees looking good? They look like crap. Well, you probably have a leak. So, I think there's a lot of opportunity in different spaces where this platform is going to go.
Is the product that you have, YardPro, is it being used by contractors, or is it just really for a homeowner to understand what's going on at their house or business or building, or who's using that software, and how does that work, or how's that being pitched?
Yeah, so I mean, it started as right. I built it for myself as a homeowner,
Right.
and kind of a DIY homeowner, right? That's what I built it for myself as, and it started there. If you look at the signups we have, about a third of them are professional folks. We've received several, quite a few inquiries from people in the industry. Ones generally, it's the ones who are managing like larger properties. So it'll be like, hey, this is a large property. I really, the homeowner wants to know what's going on. I need a better way to communicate with them. And so we're seeing it from that side and starting to get into multifamily housing, which is a place where we've had a lot of experience, right? And these property managers are starting to require that the irrigation professionals are using YardPro to let them know when they fix things. So now it's kind of like I was saying with the the HVAC guy. It's like, hey, Arik, great news, I'm coming to your house. Hey, great news, Arik, I fixed the problem. Here's a picture of it. And so that's the expectation that, especially at the commercial level, these guys want to have is like, oh, I know, we had a leak. We took a picture of it. We can even have a one of our tenants, if they see any leaks, there's a QR code. They can just scan it and let us know that there's an irrigation problem. We'll get it. We'll be able to assign it to our irrigation techs, give it a different whatever the priority is. If it's an urgent priority, tell them they need to be out here within 24 hours to get that fixed. So we've started with homeowners because that's what it was kind of initially sort of focused on, but we're trying to move into the B2B space, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for professionals to jump on board, and we're working on sort of a way that they can make money off this product as well.
For
Yeah,
sure.
I was checking it out a little bit, and I could see too where it would be extremely helpful for larger. I think of some of the senior living communities that we
retirement,
do.
centers.
They've got. I think one of them has 115 zones or something like that, and I can't tell you how many pumps and how many.
Right.
Just this and just having a map of
The
everything.
question I start thinking about is, you guys, water is different out there in California. Like, we're in the Midwest. I mean, if someone's zone stuck on for a week, nobody really gives a shit. It's just kind of like it just runs. But yeah, water being such, so valuable out there, to your point, like every ounce and every gallon is certainly important. And in the Midwest, maybe not as much. But yeah,
No, but I think it's going to
it's
get there.
getting there though. Like, so when we, it was extremely dry early spring, and there were certain communities that had water restrictions, right? And everyone in my community was supposed to shut their water off. Well, I'm not shutting my water off. My yard looks like, I mean, it's green. But I mean, I had some situations where my wife's like, dude, if like the neighbors are going to get pissed off if you don't shut the water off. And I'm like, well, I guess they're going to be mad. And like, but there was letters there were certain communities that people were getting letters, right? You couldn't run your irrigation system. And then since then, of course, we had an extremely wet summer and still been raining like crazy. But yeah, I was just trying to figure out, from like, you're still in the business, Leroy, is there a benefit to you going to a retirement community that has 115 zones and now they can manage their system? But then I start thinking, like, does that hurt you as the contractor? Because to your point, Arik, there for so many years when we were installing, it was like, hey, can I get an as-built? Like, where's my lines at? Where's my valves at? Nobody ever, I don't know where a single zone is at my house. I have no as-built, right?
Yeah, and that's where I think that this helps at, is giving you the as-built, because you can put trees on there. Corey, this is where we planted your 2 new Colorado blues as well.
Right.
It hits on zone 5 that's controlled by this. So I think it could give you an as-built map.
Sure.
A company like mine that goes in and we install irrigation, a bunch of landscaping, some trees, this and that, to map the entire property for them. I think that's where this software could really help a guy like me anyway.
Yeah, because I can tell you that I bet you 90% of the homeowners, 90% of the irrigated properties in Iowa, our community, which every home 400,000 and up or 500,000 up, it has irrigation. So almost every house anymore, every business has irrigation, and nobody has a clue where their lines are.
Sure. So think of this software. If you could get to it, and maybe you're there, getting there is, so you have this at your house, Corey, and this is on your plan, and you hire brilliant boarders to do this thing, and you go out and your irrigation's just blowing straight out of the ground because one of the heads is blown off. You can just take a QR code, it sends it directly to us, and it saves us all the time of going out there figuring out which one it is. You've saved $80 because we only have a half hour worth of service rather than a full hour's worth of service. It saves my guy this much time just by the quick communication that I think.
Irrigation's a weird thing too, because even right now, like at my home, around my main landscape beds up front, it's super dry. But the only way I can get enough water there is to run the rest of my zones way too much. And so it's completely, I'm wasting water constantly, trying to get enough water to a section that if I could just go, I don't even know what freaking zone it is.
Right next to the concrete or
something.
something.
Yeah, exactly. If I could go, hey, I need to run zone 2 and 3 less. I need to run zone 5 and 6 more.
Yep.
And so, yeah, Eric, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I just wondered how our listeners or a commercial guy like Leroy could sell that to his clients eventually. Because, and then I also wondered, I'm just being the devil's advocate here, like, do most homeowners give a shit, right? Like at the end of the day, do they care where their lines are, where their valves are? If a head's stuck on, they just want green grass.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, in our community, so we live up in Northern California.
Right.
Very different. First off, it doesn't rain for 6 months, right? So we don't have any rain. So our like if you want your lawn, if you want your trees to survive, irrigation is your lifeblood.
Sure.
And having and paying for someone to come out and fix a lot of these small little things, it just becomes cost prohibitive, although plenty of people do use the services like that. But it's a critical piece of the infrastructure. And we've started working with folks like Leroy who are developing this. And from a customer expectations perspective, to some extent, when I was building my house, I was expecting at least drawings and pictures. If they gave it to me in software, I would have been like, these guys are the best landscapers I've ever dealt with. Like, everybody needs to use these guys. Look at this map I've got. I know that this is a blue oak and wow, it's doing well, but my other trees aren't doing well and it died. You know what? I want to replace it with the same one as that one. What exact tree was that? This is the make and model of that tree, right? And so I think, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but a lot of the drive is going to come from the customers. And this is what customers want. And when the professionals are giving it to them, they're going to get so much more business. And when it only cost me $80 for you guys to come out and fix a couple heads versus $400 because you don't even, most of these jobs, these irrigation, the companies I've spoke to, 3/4 of the job is figuring out what valve's it on, what zone is it on, where is it, where's this pipe run? And then, the actual fix itself is usually a 20-minute fix, right? The fixes are easy. It's diagnosing the problem. And when you've got a map that shows you exactly where these lines run, where the valves are, what zones they're on, it just makes fixing these problems so much easier.
That's so true. Like when the guy comes out, it takes him 2 minutes to switch out the head, but he spends an hour and a half digging up valves and lines. And it's like, yeah. In the problem is even for a company like ours, where I think we had 7 or 8 irrigation techs at one point, like the same tech doesn't even come back to the same property every time too. So one tech may know, may know my home, right? Or my business. And then the next time I call, they come out, it's a different tech and he's still good. But he's got to figure out where the problem is. And he runs through every zone. To your point, he goes and runs through every goddamn zone to try to figure out which one runs the front parking. And then he doesn't know where the valve box is. So he's digging up everywhere. And yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a lot of, and is there nothing else? I guess I haven't been in the business for a while and I don't know irrigation as well. Is there no other software out there right now that does that? I mean, with the technology that's changed between Hunter and Rainbird and some of the new brands, is there nothing out there now that does that?
That was why I built it. I mean, literally, I searched high and low. I was banging my head against the wall. I couldn't believe there's no software that does this. Like how? I mean, everybody knows Google Maps, right? How's Google Maps not do this? And if you can do it with Google Maps if you're super technical and you'll build your own KML files, but nobody's going to do that. Everybody just wants an app on their iPhone that they can download and pay $3 a month for and go map this stuff out. And so it was one of those things where I was like, I shouldn't need to build this, but somebody's got to build it. And, I mean, we posted on our local Loomis community page about this software. We had 200 signups in the first day. I just couldn't believe it. I mean, and now we're in a community where people have, 1 acre plus lots. They're all DIYers. And I mean, it was just sign up after sign, like nonstop. So, there's definitely demand for this in certain areas and people want it. But then, you also brought up so much of sort of the way this irrigation is done is just, Joey knows how the system works. Oh, wait, Joey quit. Oh, Joey's not here anymore. We're
Yeah.
starting from scratch. And especially when you're talking about, senior living communities, multifamily housing, municipalities, right? I mean, it's just golf courses. It's so much of it is domain knowledge, and there's not good as-builts. And if there are, most of those as-builts are done ahead of time of what they're supposed to build, not what they
Right.
actually did build, right? And so they're not even right most of the time. So we're working on a service too, and if someone has it, we're more than happy to do it right now, where you can send us those as-builts and we'll take them, the paper documents or scans, and put them into the software so that you can then add all the other features and task management, and add your landscaping and your trees and your septic systems if you have them, and your wells and your you name it. We have a sensor that we're testing right now, which is a water depth sensor. And so I've found we actually have ditch water that feeds our property. I have a filter on it. That filter will get clogged. My holding tank will go down, and I won't know until, I'm not getting any water on my zones of why it's down. So I think there's all these sensors and all this smart technology that we can start rolling out across your property. So you're monitoring everything and it's all dialed in, and you're not going to have these big surprises when you go in the morning to turn your water on and you've got no water.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it's it's a huge investment. I think about, this the building we built here, and we spent, $100 and some $1,000 on landscaping and trees, and it's irrigated. I have no clue. Actually, we have no clue how to run the system, and I should, but it's got this new fancy, I think, Hunter Rainbird clock that I can't figure out. So we got to call the company that I used to own to come out, and then he comes out, but the guy that installed it doesn't work there anymore. And so it all makes sense to me. And this part of the property is super green. This part's dead for some reason. But we can't figure out how to run this zone more than that zone. And it's like, fuck, send a tech out for $160 because it's a 1 hour minimum. And then we got to pay a 1 hour. And then he dicks around with a couple heads, and that's a 1 hour minimum. And so, yeah, I mean, I think but I have no clue, Arik. I have no clue where the lines are. I have no clue where the valve boxes are. Never got a design. They just put the irrigation in. So, yeah, I definitely think there would be value. Now, I don't know that we would run it ourselves, but I'd like to know where our lines are. We're going to add some concrete and add another building. We'll just rip the lines out.
I think the value, I think a lot of the value comes for companies like ours, that we install this type of stuff and we install this type of controller. And for Corey, for $8 a month, we'll maintain it for you and take care of the entire thing for you and shut it on and turn it, but most of it does it behind the scenes. And then we'll come out and check it, whatever the case is.
Sure.
But we can just monitor that for you. And I think that's a value as well, too. And if we have his software on the back of it, technology is getting there.
Well,
It's
and I
making
think
a lot
the cost of money, the cost of water anymore too is like, are we overwatering? I mean, I think a lot of,
absolutely.
I think all of us are probably in our area are certainly overwatering, which, my wife says all the time. She's like, our water bill was $700 last month. I'm like, yeah, but our yard looks sweet. And she's like, I know, but it's $700 a month. And I'm like, and we only irrigate the front yard. Like my back's irrigated below the retaining wall in my back, but we don't even run those zones because it doesn't go all the way and nobody can see it unless you're walking on the bike path. So I just run my front and sides, and our water bill's bonkers.
And that's when we hear over and over again, I got $1,000 water bill because I had a leak. I mean, you can hear that
for sure
over and over. And that's why we built the sensors. Now you're going to get it. But we also talked earlier in this podcast about recurring revenue, right? And I'm sure some of your listeners are going, well, this software is not great because I come out and it's a 4-hour tech visit. And I like that, even though I know the fix is an hour, and this is going to make that fix an hour instead of 4 hours. But why not move to a recurring revenue model, right? Where I go, listen, I'm going to pay you $100 a month. I'm expecting that you're going to monitor my lines. Anytime you see an issue, you're going to come out and fix it, right? So now, you know what? Some customers, it's going to cost you $200 a month. Another, it's going to cost you $10 a month. But you've got that nice, steady recurring revenue. You're able to staff for that. You're able to source for that. And the customer is going to get what their expectation is, which is just like, my yard's looking great. My irrigation's working well. And I'm not going to get hit with a bill because a tree died or because I had a big leak or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great point. We had a leak at our place, and it went on for so long that the city actually reached out to us and said, your water bill is extremely high. We think there's a problem. And we had a valve stuck on going down the back side. And of course, I didn't know. And it ran for a couple months. And they actually our water bill was over like $1,200, same deal, like $1,200 for 2 months in a row. And I didn't even know because I don't pay attention to that shit. but the city reached out and said, you're using an astronomical amount of water.
Isn't that crazy?
And I'm like, yeah. And they came over and we had a valve stuck on, and it was, if it had been in the front, I would have probably known. It just happened to be going down the back side of the retaining wall. No clue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Arik, one question we ask everybody that comes on the Green Grind: what is the best business advice you've ever been given?
Hey guys, thanks for listening. We're going to wrap this up with a quick word from our sponsor. We appreciate the support.
Business is hard.
But you're not alone.
Here at Ballard Products, we bring you hundreds of great products to make your life easier. With over 25 years in the accessories industry and even more years in the lawn care and snow removal industry, doing exactly what you guys do each day, we know what works. From mower gear, safety gear, trailer racks, equipment securement, equipment servicing tools, chute blockers, mower blades, aluminum baggers, cleaning products, snow removal tools, and much more to make you efficient, effective, safe, and profitable in the field. Be sure to check out the Ballard-Inc.com website to help dominate and elevate your business this season. We keep working hard to innovate and elevate our amazing industry. Our robust website makes it really easy to find the exact parts for your machine. We do the research, we do the testing, we do the hard work in here so you can kick butt out there. Let's make it your best year ever. Again, that's Ballard-Inc.com.
Well, I mean, the best business advice I've ever been given is a tough one. But you know, a lot of advice I've gotten throughout the days and through the years. One of the things that I like to practice and preach within my organization, it's always the process, not the person. And so, I mean, this kind of comes from my GE days and Six Sigma, and it's easy to go, oh no, it's the person. The guy's an idiot. Yeah, but if you go look at it, it's actually the process, right? And so there's so much that can be fixed through process improvement. And go look at your processes and figure out, you know, every time someone makes a mistake, that is an opportunity to improve your business, to improve your processes. And so they made that mistake because your software allowed them to, or because you didn't have some checks and balances in place there. And granted, sometimes the guys won't follow the process, then that's a training issue, or maybe you have an employee issue. But you know, we in our organization, that's always the question is like, what's the process? Do you have it documented? Have you trained them on it? And if not, that's your problem. It's not that this employee is doing a bad job. So, you know, that's one of the mantras that I I really like to live by is just, it's always the process, not the person.
That's awesome.
Great
I
advice.
absolutely agree with you completely. And one of the things we did really well in our company, Arik, is when somebody left, we always said, what did we do wrong? And it was never like, oh, he was an idiot or she was an idiot. It was, what did we do wrong? Did we not hire them correctly? Were we not clear about the job expectations? Were they not treated properly? Were they not trained properly? And I think that's a great piece of advice. And then we always, to your point, we took it as an opportunity to say, how do we get better? How do we hire better? How do we train better? What does the process look like? And how do we do a better job? How do our listeners find you, our YardPro? How do they find you if they want to check out the product, social media, website? Where do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, go to yardpro.com. The product's free to try out, and you can drop a bunch of pins and get your property up and running. And, you know, depending on how much you use it, there are different tiers, but overall, it's a free product to get started with. You can find me on LinkedIn. At YardPro app is our Facebook and our Instagram. So you can follow us there. And yeah, if anyone wants to reach out to me, LinkedIn's probably the best. It's Arik, Arik, Levy, Levy. If you just search for YardPro, you'll find me. I'm pretty easy to find. And I look forward to talking to some of your listeners.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's unique, and I'm glad that you decided to do something, you know, different in our industry. I think it definitely needs to be elevated up as well. So appreciate you spending an hour with us, Arik. It's been fun. Guys, we drop a new episode of The Green Grind every Tuesday. If you want to be a guest or know someone wants to be a guest, just have them jump on the Ballard website, and it shoots me a direct email. We appreciate Jobber for being our sponsor, and that's a wrap.
I think that's it. Arik, thank you so much, man. We really appreciate you being on. Loved learning a little bit more about your product as well, too.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.